Welcome to this explainer. You know that nagging feeling that almost everyone gets at some point? That feeling that you're somehow just falling behind? Well, today, we're going to dive right into that. We're looking at why that coworker who seems to have absolutely everything, the flashy cars, the massive house, the perfect lifestyle, might actually be tens of thousands of dollars behind you. It's a completely fair question, right? Because let's be honest, everyone around you seems to just have way more money than you do. But today, we're going to peel back the layers of all this visible wealth. We're going to put an exact mathematical number on the financial illusions that so many people are trapped in. We aren't just going to sit here and tell you to stop comparing yourself to others. Instead, we're going to analyze exactly who it is you're comparing yourself to. Let's kick things off with Layer 1, melting assets and the car trap. So let's start with the ultimate status symbol, sitting right out there in the company parking lot, the car. To really get into this, I want to introduce you to a guy named Eric. Eric works right down the hall from you, and he makes the exact same salary you do. But Eric, he drives a brand new $53,000 BMW i4, while you drive a reliable, slightly older, used Corolla. Now, Eric loves to complain about his $459 car payment, and honestly, that sounds insanely low for a luxury car, right? Especially since your Corolla costs you $424 a month. But here is the massive detail Eric isn't telling you. Eric leases. He had to put $5,300 down at signing. His insurance is way higher, so his real monthly cost is actually closer to $560. And the absolute kicker? At the end of 3 years, he hands those keys back and owns literally nothing. It's essentially a permanent subscription. You, on the other hand, are actually paying off a loan to own a real asset.
Which brings us to a pretty devastating number, 40%. Look, a new car is basically the fastest melting asset most people will ever own. By year 3, a brand new car has shed about 40% of its value. For Eric, that means $21,000 just evaporated from his net worth simply by driving to work. When you bought your used Corolla, you let the original owner eat that entire drop for you.
Now, let's fast forward a decade and look at the math. Eric pulls this same lease trick over and over again. After 10 years, he's spent almost $90,000 on cars he will never own. You, however, pay off that Corolla, you keep driving it, and you take that old car payment and toss it into a basic index fund. The result? You are $81,000 ahead of Eric. Same salary, same parking lot. He might look richer every single day, but fundamentally, he is way behind. Moving on to Layer 2, the house poor reality. If the car is the first illusion, the massive magazine cover house is absolutely the second trap, and almost nobody questions it. This brings us to a concept known as being house poor. This happens when someone with a great income buys a massive 5-bedroom house in the perfect, pristine neighborhood. Our brains just immediately fill in a fortune behind that front door. But a big house isn't necessarily wealth. A massive mortgage is actually the total opposite of wealth. It means skyrocketing property taxes, higher insurance, and just endless grueling maintenance costs. They might look incredibly rich from the street, but they feel absolutely broke on their personal balance sheet. So how does this actually play out over time? Picture 2 people earning the exact same amount. One buys a $600,000 house, the other buys a really sensible $375,000 house. Because of the extra taxes, the heating bills, the constant repairs, that bigger house cost about $1,600 more per month just to live in. But what if the person in this sensible house invests that $1,600 difference? Well, in 10 years, they wind up with a perfectly good home plus a massive $250,000 sitting right there in the bank. Next up is Layer 3, and this is absolutely critical: how high interest debt hurts. This right here, this is the toxic core of the whole financial illusion. This is the absolute center of why everyone seems to have more money than you. When you see that nice watch, the designer bag, the constant dinners out at fancy restaurants, a massive chunk of that luxury isn't bought with actual wealth. It's rented with credit. Right now, the average person carrying a balance owes around $11,000. And they're getting hit with a punishing interest rate north of 21%. This rate is exactly why high interest debt hurts so incredibly much. It's literally designed to be a trap you can't easily escape. The math on this perfectly illustrates the pain of this trap. Say you have a $5,000 credit card balance, and you only make the minimum payment each month. You aren't going to clear that in a year or 2. The minimum payment is mathematically engineered by banks to keep you on the hook. It's going to take you 15 to 20 years to pay off that single balance. But here's the part that truly destroys your ability to build wealth. Over those 2 decades, you are going to pay $6,000 to $8,000 in interest alone. That completely dwarfs the original principal.
You're essentially paying double, sometimes triple, for a lifestyle that you consumed years ago. This is exactly how high-interest debt actively steals from your future to fund a complete illusion today.
And now there's an even newer, sneakier trick hiding all this devastating debt. Buy now, pay later. Half of everyone under 40 is using these plans to split up jackets, sneakers, and even holidays into 4 easy payments. It creates this totally invisible lifestyle assembled out of tiny little installments. But the terrifying part is that nearly half of those users end up paying these loans late. They're just juggling multiple microdebts just to maintain the look of having money.
So the next time you see that flashy designer jacket at the office and you start feeling like you're falling behind, you've got to remember this. You aren't looking at net worth. You're looking at a credit balance that never goes down. You're looking at someone who is slowly being eaten alive by 21% interest rates. All right, layer 4, hidden advantages and illusions.
Beyond the everyday debt traps, we're constantly measuring ourselves against total internet fabrications. It's called survivorship bias. You know the drill. You open a forum or social media and see a screenshot of someone who turned $80,000 into $1 million in a week. What you don't see are the hundreds of people who lost absolutely everything and quietly closed their laptops. If you actually run the math on a 1 in 1,000 options bet like that, an average $80,000 bet results in a $75,000 loss. The viral trade completely hides the losers.
But then there's the advantage that probably stings the most: family money. It's totally invisible. You don't see the parent who quietly helped with the down payment. Just look at the math. It tells a wild story. Take two 30-year-olds who both save $500 a month. One starts at zero, the other gets a one-time $40,000 gift from family. Fast forward 30 years, the one who started at zero has a highly respectable $610,000. But the one with the gift, they've got $935,000. That single hidden head start quietly compounded into a massive $325,000 gap. You simply cannot compare your middle-of-the-race pace to someone who was handed a massive head start. So let's get to the solution: building quiet wealth. If all this visible wealth is just a mirage of permanent subscriptions, massive mortgages, crippling high-interest credit card debt, and hidden family advantages, how do you actually get ahead? Let's compare two people who each have an extra $500 a month after bills. The visible spender puts that money into things you can see: nicer clothes, constant upgrades, gadgets. Every single month, there's something new for you to notice. But the quiet investor? They take that exact same $500 and dump it into an index fund. There's nothing to see. No shiny new watch, no flashy social posts, just a number going up in a completely private account. Give it 20 years on the exact same income. The visible spender has a closet full of old stuff that's mostly worth nothing now. The quiet investor? They're sitting on roughly $260,000 in invisible wealth. One of them built an illusion. The other built an actual, solid foundation.
And that perfectly sums up our entire explainer today. Real wealth is almost invisible by design. The things you truly want in life, real financial security, the power of compounding interest, the ability to just walk away from a toxic job, pure freedom, none of those things can be seen on a shelf, and they definitely can't be parked in a driveway. You are comparing your insides, your actual bank balance, and your real worries to everybody else's carefully curated outsides.
So let's do a quick reality check. When you look around, remember what you're really seeing out there. That BMW? It's a subscription. The big house? It's just a massive debt with a roof on it. That luxurious lifestyle is likely a high-interest credit card balance that never, ever clears. The viral internet trade hides all the losers, and that effortless wealth you envy is so often just an invisible head start. Almost everything we use as a yardstick to measure where we stand is either a toxic trap or a heavily filtered story. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Are you going to keep measuring your financial success against the illusions in the company parking lot, or are you ready to start building your own quiet, invisible wealth? Stop looking at the cars and start looking at your own numbers. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this changes exactly how you see wealth moving forward.